Early evening, August 21st, 1955. 8 adults and 3 children barged into the Hopkinsville police station to file a terrifying, sensational report. Brothers Elmer and John Sutton were among the bewildered witnesses. What followed was the telling of one of the most complete, notable, and consistent reports of a UFO sighting on record. Accordingly, the report stated that the event lasted several hours. During that time, the family spotted 12 to 15 alien creatures peering into their home and apparently trying to get inside. The alleged incident took place at their family farm on the outskirts of rural Kelly, Kentucky, a small hamlet. The family shared a sparse 3-bedroom home that lacked running water, electricity, and even painted walls. Despite later disputed descriptions, police officers there that night agreed that the whole family appeared distressed and afraid. For example, one of the Sutton men had a pulse of 140 beats per minute when he arrived. Police Chief Russell Greenwell would later tell investigators that, quote, "These aren't the kind of people who normally run to the police for help. What they do is reach for their guns." The incident. According to the accounts given by the family to the police, the sequence of events unfolded as follows. Nearly 7 p.m. on a Sunday evening, the family's friend, Billy Ray Taylor, fetched water from the backyard well. That's where he witnessed it, the arrival of a silvery object in the sky. Taylor, age 21, and his wife, June, 18, were down from Pennsylvania, visiting Lucky Sutton, whom they worked with before, at a traveling carnival. Glennie Langford, the 50-year-old widowed head of household, her 2 older sons, Lucky and John, with their respective wives, Vera and Aline, a brother-in-law, O.P. Baker, and Langford's 3 younger children, Lonnie, Charlton, and Mary, all resided at the farm. When they initially heard Taylor's story, they laughed. However, an hour after the first report, the farm dog started barking. It grew loud, then incessant. Lucky Sutton and Billy Ray Taylor snuck out the back to investigate. There, they saw a strange glow. At its center, a small humanoid described as about 3 feet tall with, quote, an oversized head, almost perfectly round, arms extended almost to the ground, hands had talons, and eyes glowed with a yellowish light. Naturally, the 2 men climbed back inside for their 20-gauge shotgun and .22 caliber rifle. The inclination was to fire at the small gray creature. Before they could grab their weapons, the alien descended, arms raised, threatless. Nevertheless, they fired. The creature reportedly flipped, then ran into the dark cover of night. Langford described its appearance to researcher Isabel Davis, who wrote the report, titled Close Encounter at Kelly and Others of 1955. In it, she repeated Langford's description, quote, "It looked like a 5-gallon gasoline can with a head on top and small legs. It was a shimmering bright metal, like on my refrigerator." The night wasn't over. Taylor stepped outside to investigate. While peering out from the overhanging roof, many of the family members witnessed a claw-like hand reaching down. It touched his hair, sending Lucky reeling back, shooting at the ceiling. Lucky Sutton fired at a tree where he saw another creature. The family pulled him back inside. Adjacent to where the aliens were fired upon, an odd, luminous substance sprayed on the grass. Perhaps alien blood. Of course, the extraterrestrials ran into the woods. The family retreated too, locking doors and windows. However, they soon heard what sounded like movement on the roof. Then scratching. An hour before midnight, they made a dash to their cars, speeding towards the Hopkinsville police station, both looking for help and escaping the beings. Police Chief Russell Greenwell called for backup and searched the farm with his team. State police and military police from Fort Campbell arrived soon after, along with a photographer from the Kentucky New Era. The only evidence at the scene were shell casings. Their first inclination was to ask whether the adults had been drinking that night, but Glennie Langford didn't allow alcoholic consumption on her property. Evidence to the contrary was lacking. Law enforcement left with no leads while the family tried to decompress. However, the creatures reappeared at around 2:30 in the morning and once more at dawn. Langford reported having witnessed an alien at her bedside window, observing her, its clawed hand on the window. It glowed. Confusion. The family and their farm on the outskirts of town soon appeared in headlines and news articles worldwide. Audiences were thrilled at their extraterrestrial aircraft visitation claims and, quote, little gray men. The media spread news, speculation, and statements to both believers and skeptics. Even the New York Times reported the incident. Their account of small, gray, goblin-like creatures often went misquoted as little green men. This mistake permeated the culture and most people's understanding of aliens. The incident, referred to as the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter, was well documented and analyzed. Even Steven Spielberg references it as partial inspiration for films such as E.T. and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. As a consequence, hundreds of curious people and ufologists traveled to the farm. Many wanted evidence, others thought to badger the family or else prove them frauds. The Suttons put up no trespassing signs, which did little to discourage the wave of visitors. While they failed, the family had another idea. They decided to capitalize on their undesired fame by charging admission to their farm. Entering the grounds had a cost of 50 cents. If they wanted information, guests would pay an extra $1. For pictures, the asking price was $10. The decision to charge the visitors led skeptics to discredit and criticize the family as financially motivated. Their misinterpreted reports of green-skinned creatures soon took on a life of its own. The account was quickly lumped in with an Eastern Kentucky woman's account of a UFO and 6-feet-tall green men. Both stories helped create the widespread myth of aliens as green. This myth soon entered public consciousness in the US and abroad, and has remained there ever since. An investigation. The morning after the incident, the police went back to the farmhouse, searching for evidence of the flying saucer's landing spot, footprints, or blood trails in broad daylight. They checked for scratch marks on the outside of the house and the roof. Nothing was found. A local radio station employee by the name of Bud Ledwith conducted interviews of the adult eyewitnesses, drawing sketches based on their descriptions. They were interviewed separately by the police. Several of the interviewers remarked that their stories were specific and consistent, even though they had no time to get their versions straight before questioning. The incident attracted the attention of the Air Force's UFO investigative project Blue Book. Still, it relied mostly on information already available to Fort Campbell. It did not check back in with the involved parties. In 1956, one of the most, if not the most, exhaustive investigations into the matter was conducted by ufologist Isabel Davis, who published her findings decades later through the Center for UFO Studies. In her 200-page book, co-written with Ted Blocher, she included several maps of the area, the original drawings by Ledwith, as well as other drawings, records, and summaries of accounts. She compared it to other relevant cases and drew conclusions from the police record and recollections from surviving Sutton family members. While Davis's research acknowledged a lack of physical evidence, she argues that no possible explanation completely suffices to explain what happened at the Suttons' farm that night. All descriptions to the police and independent investigators matched. The creatures were 3 to 4 feet in height. They had muscular upper bodies and seemingly stunted legs, with large glowing eyes and pointy ears. They were gray in tone and seemed to shine silver under the moonlight. Still, not everyone believed them. Respected astronomer and UFO researcher Dr. J. Allen Hynek called their claims, quote, preposterous. Some skeptics went as far as to suggest that the small men were monkeys from the carnival where Lucky Sutton and Billy Taylor worked. Theories. Several alternative explanations were put forth by investigators and authorities. Many have supported ufologist theories. First, psychologists and the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry found similarities between the alleged creatures and the great horned owl. Author Brian Dunning wrote, quote, "There are simply too many similarities between the creatures reported by the families and an aggressive pair of the local great horned owls, which do stand about 2/3 of a meter tall. Furthermore, the glowing alien blood was explained as foxfire, a bioluminescent fungus that detaches itself to decaying wood. As for the spaceship allegedly seen by Taylor, a comet was visible flying past that day in the area. Many have suggested his account was either misinterpreted or an embellishment. Yet while great horned owls are known to be aggressive defenders of their nests, they're never as hostile as the Suttons characterized. And while foxfire flows, no one made a note of its presence in daylight. Lastly, a meteor did fly near Earth that night. Still, some believe the phenomenon is also tied to the alien visit, rather than an alternative explanation. Project Blue Book. Starting in 1952, the U.S. Air Force conducted a series of studies on UFO incidents. It was the third government study in the series. The purpose was to determine whether UFOs presented a national security threat, while also getting scientific analysis on UFO incident data. thousands of cases and reports were used for the project, including the accounts and information collected by Fort Campbell members from the Hopkinsville Goblins incident. Their findings saw nothing paranormal or extraterrestrial. Project Blue Book listed it as a hoax, providing no evidence for their claim. The study was concluded in December 1969, and the project closed down in January of the following year. Still, many ufologists have regarded Project Blue Book as nothing more than a cover-up.